The rain is hammering the windshield like it's trying to break in. I'm parked on the edge of Black Hollow Road, engine off, wipers frozen mid-swipe. 30 minutes of storm sounds will roll under my voice tonight. But right now, the only thing I hear is my own pulse and the wind clawing at the pines. I need you to lean in, because what I'm about to tell you started exactly like this. 2 friends, 1 flashlight, and a forest that whispers your name when you're not supposed to be listening. It was late October, the kind of cold that sneaks under your collar and stays there. Jake and I had driven 3 hours from Portland for a weekend of cheap beer and no cell service. Black Hollow Campground sat in a bowl of Douglas firs so thick the satellite maps just showed a green smear. We rolled in after dusk, tires crunching on wet gravel, headlights carving tunnels through the downpour. The ranger station was dark, signs swinging like a hanged man. A laminated note taped to the window read, "Pay at kiosk, no open fires. Report any unusual vocalizations." Jake laughed, said the Rangers were trolling. I paid the $20 and tried to ignore the prickle on my neck. Site 14 was ours, farthest loop, closest to the tree line. We pitched the tent by headlamp, rain hissing on nylon. Inside, the air smelled of wet canvas and mildew. Jake cracked a beer, foam sliding down the can like slug trails. That's when we heard the first whisper, soft, almost polite, like someone just outside the rainfly saying, "Hey, you forgot something." We froze. Jake clicked the lantern brighter. Nothing but silver needles of rain. "Wind in the branches," he muttered, but his knuckles were white on the can. Sleep wouldn't come. Every gust carried a syllable. My name, his name, sometimes a word neither of us recognized. Around 2 a.m., the whispers layered, overlapping like a choir warming up. Jake sat up, eyes wide in the red glow of his phone. "Dude, that's not wind." I grabbed the flashlight, unzipped the door. The beam stabbed into the dark and died 10 feet out, swallowed by fog. But for a split second, I saw them. Pale shapes between trunks, tall, swaying in sync with the trees. Then gone. I told myself it was pareidolia, the brain making faces from bark and shadow. We zipped the tent shut and didn't speak until dawn. Morning smelled of iron and wet earth. The whispers had stopped, but the forest felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. Our map showed a 4-mile loop trail to an old fire lookout. Jake wanted photos. I wanted proof we hadn't imagined the night. We packed water, protein bars, the bear spray I never thought I'd need. The trail started wide, pine needles muffling our steps. Then it narrowed. Roots snaked across the path like veins. Every 100 yards, we found offerings, single boot prints filled with rainwater. A child's mitten pinned to a stump by a rusty nail. A Polaroid of a smiling woman with her eyes scratched out. Jake pocketed the photo. "Souvenir," he said, but his voice cracked. Halfway up, the rain returned, thin, needle-sharp. The whispers came with it, closer now, threading through the hiss of droplets on leaves. They knew details. Jake's sister, to his little sister, who died when we were 12. My mom's maiden name. We sped up, boots slipping on moss. The trail forked without warning. No signpost, just 2 identical paths disappearing into green gloom. Jake took the left. I hesitated. The right path had a single red ribbon tied to a branch, fluttering like a tongue. I followed him anyway. 10 minutes later, the trees pressed so tight our packs scraped bark. The whispers turned conversational, almost friendly. "Almost there," one said. "Keep going, boys." Jake's breathing went ragged. He stopped, shone his phone at the canopy. No sky, just layers of needles dripping like stalactites. That's when we noticed the silence underneath the rain. No birds, no insects, no wind, only the voices. We broke into a jog. Branches whipped our faces, drew blood. The trail spat us out into a clearing no map ever showed. In the center stood the fire lookout, except it was wrong. The tower was wrapped in living vines, windows blacked out with mud. A wooden door hung open on leather hinges. Inside, the whispers stopped. Absolute quiet, like the forest had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. Jake stepped over the threshold first. I smelled it then. Sweet rot, wet dog, copper pennies. The floorboards were spongy, stained dark. On the far wall, someone had carved letters 2 inches deep. They sound like home, so you follow. Jake's phone buzzed. Impossible. No signal for miles. The screen lit his face corpse blue. A single text from his dead sister's old knobber. "Come upstairs." We shouldn't have, but the stairs creaked under our weight, like they'd been waiting years for company. Second floor, a circle of child-sized shoes arranged toe to heel, laces tied together. Third floor, Polaroids pinned to the railing. Every missing hiker from the Pacific Northwest for a decade. Eyes scratched out, mouths open mid-scream. The top landing ended at a trap door in the ceiling. Rain leaked through the seams, pattering onto our hoods. Jake reached for the rusted handle. I grabbed his wrist. "Don't." He looked at me, pupils blown wide. "They know my name, man. They've always known." He yanked free and pulled. The trapdoor opened onto nothing. No attic. No roof. Just treetops stretching endlessly upward, upside down. Roots clawing at a sky that wasn't there. And hanging from those roots, dozens of bodies in orange vests and backpacks, swaying gently, mouths moving in perfect sync with the whispers we'd heard all night. Jake screamed. The bodies screamed back in his sister's voice. I dragged him down the stairs. The vines on the tower tightened, wood groaning like bones. We burst out the front door into the clearing, except the clearing was gone. Just trees, endless, the same trunks repeating like a glitched film reel. The whispers laughed now, a sound like wet leaves tearing. We ran. Hours, maybe minutes. Time smeared. My lungs burned. Jake lagged, clutching the Polaroid he'd taken earlier. The woman's scratched-out eyes had become his own. I don't know when he let go of my hand. 1 second, his fingers were slick with rain and blood. The next, I was alone. The forest spat me out at the campground kiosk at twilight. My truck sat exactly where I'd left it, but the tent was gone. Site 14 was bare dirt. The pay envelope still fluttered on the bulletin board. My $20 bill inside, crisp, untouched. I drove until the road blurred, radio static shaping itself into Jake's laugh. 2 days later, rangers found his pack 2 miles from the tower. Inside, the Polaroid, now showing both of us smiling, eyes intact, time-stamped the night we arrived. On the back, fresh ink. He stayed to keep the whispers company. Your turn soon. The rain tonight sounds exactly like that forest. If you're listening in your car, your bedroom, wherever, Turn the volume up. Hear that layer beneath the storm? That's not ambience. That's them getting closer. Learning your name, one droplet at a time. Lock your doors. Don't answer if they sound like someone you lost. Because the forest doesn't take, it trades. And it still has my voice to give back when you're ready to follow. The windshield wipers on my '98 Civic are fighting a losing battle against the downpour, thumping like a dying heartbeat. I'm pulled over on County Road 17, somewhere south of Eugene. Headlights off, engine ticking as it cools. 30 minutes of recorded rainstorm will layer under my words tonight. But right now, the only soundtrack is water sluicing off the roof and the low growl of thunder that feels like it's coming from inside my rib cage. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine the smell of wet asphalt, the way the streetlights smear into orange halos. That's where this begins, on a night exactly like this, with a girl who thought hitchhiking was safer than staying home. Her name was Marisol Vega, 22, art student, hair the color of midnight dye jobs that never quite wash out. October 12th, 2019. She'd missed the last Greyhound out of Corvallis after a fight with her roommate. Something about rent, something about a boyfriend who wasn't hers. The details don't matter. The decision does. She stuck her thumb out on the on-ramp to I-5, backpack between her boots, sketchbook poking out like a white flag. A semi roared past, air brakes hissing like laughter. Then came the pickup. It was a 70s Ford, primer gray, rust blooming along the wheel wells like dried blood. No headlights at first, just parking lights, two jaundiced eyes. It slowed, tires hissing through puddles. The passenger window rolled down with a mechanical groan. The driver leaned across the bench seat, mid-40s, flannel shirt, beard trimmed neat, like he cared what people thought. Voice soft, almost kind. "Storm's getting ugly. Need a ride to the next exit?" Marisol hesitated, thumb hovering, then nodded. She told investigators later, yeah, there were investigators, that the cab smelled like pine cleaner and wet dog, but the heat worked. He said his name was Cal. Drove a logging route, knew every back road between here and the coast. Marisol relaxed a fraction, pulled her sketchbook onto her lap. She drew when she was nervous, quick, nervous lines. Cal noticed. "Good," he said, eyes flicking to the page. "Ever draw the trees out on Mill Creek Road? They lean in, like they're listening." She laughed, polite. Outside, the rain thickened into sheets. Wipers couldn't keep up. Cal took an exit she didn't recognize. No sign, just a gravel ramp swallowed by firs. "Shortcut," he muttered. "Road's washed out up ahead anyway." The pavement ended. Gravel turned to mud. Headlights carved tunnels through the downpour, illuminating trunks so close they scraped the mirrors. Marisol's phone had 0 bars. She asked to be let out at the next wide spot. Cal smiled without looking over. "Almost there, hun. Just a mile." The radio static, swalloweth the music, reshaped itself into whispers, too low to make out words, but the cadence felt like conversation. Marisol pressed her back to the door. Her fingers found the lock, flipped it up. Cal's hand shot out, locked around her wrist. Not hard, just enough to remind her how breakable bones are. The truck lurched to a stop in a turnout barely wider than the vehicle. Engine off. Rain drummed the roof like 1,000 tiny hammers. Cal turned to her, eyes catching the dashboard glow. Flat, reflective, wrong. "You hear them too, don't you?" he asked. The trees, they talk when the storm's loud enough to cover it. Marisol yanked free, shoved the door open, tumbled into the mud. Her sketchbook splashed open, pages drinking rain. She ran. Boat slipped on wet pine needles. Behind her, the truck door didn't slam, just a soft click like a tongue against teeth. The forest was blacker than any night should be. No moon, no stars, just the rain and the smell of sap thick enough to choke on. Marisol's breath fogged in front of her. She counted steps, 100, 200, until her legs burned. Then she heard it. Footsteps behind her, steady, unhurried. Not splashing, almost gliding. She risked a glance. Cal walked 10 yards back, hands in his pockets, hood up, face lost in shadow. He wasn't running. He didn't need to. She veered off the road, crashed through salal and fern. Branches clawed her cheeks, drew blood that mixed with rain. The whispers were everywhere now, coming from the trees themselves, needles vibrating like vocal cords. They said her name wrong, stretched it, tasted it. Mar-e-Sol. She found a nurse log, hollowed out by rot, crawled inside. The wood smelled of mushrooms and wet earth. She pressed her sleeve to her mouth to quiet her breathing. Outside, the foot minutes passed, or hours, then a soft scrape. Fingernails on bark, inches from her hiding spot. Cal's voice, close enough to feel on her skin. I used to run too. First time they spoke to me, I was 16. Thought I was crazy. Turns out they just pick careful. Something slid through the hollow log's opening. A Polaroid, face up. Marisol's own driver's license photo, but her eyes were scratched out with what looked like a thorn. On the back, in ink that hadn't run in the rain, "We keep what we name." She screamed, scrambled out the far end. The forest spun. Every direction looked the same. Trunks, moss, darkness. Her phone flashlight flickered, died. She ran blind. The ground sloped down, steep. She fell, rolled, landed hard in an ice-cold creek. Water filled her boots. Upstream, a single street lamp glowed. Impossible. But there, the lamp stood alone in a clearing, bulb flickering like a dying star. Under it, a payphone, the kind you haven't seen since the 90s, receiver dangling, cord swaying. Marisol grabbed it. Dial tone. Impossible, but there. She punched 911. The operator's voice was calm, automated. State your emergency. "They're in the trees," Marisol sobbed. "They know my name." A pause. Then the operator's voice changed, layered, like a dozen people speaking at once. "We've been waiting. Marisol, come home." The line went dead. The lamp exploded in a shower of sparks. Darkness swallowed everything. She doesn't remember walking out. Just suddenly, headlights, real ones, blinding her on the shoulder of I-5. A state trooper found her at 4:17 a.m., barefoot, covered in mud and someone else's blood, later matched to a missing logger from 2017. Her sketchbook was recovered 3 days later, wedged in a cedar stump 5 miles from where she was picked up. Every page filled with the same drawing, over and over. The payphone, the lamp, Cal's truck. But in each sketch, the driver's seat was empty. And standing beside the open door was Marisol herself, smiling, eyes scratched out. Investigators found the turnout. No truck tracks. Rain had erased everything. But nailed to a Douglas fir at eye level was a fresh Polaroid. Marisol, standing under the lamp, phone to her ear. Timestamp, the exact minute she'd called 911. On the back, in her own handwriting, they let me borrow the line. Tell them I'm happy now. Marisol was never the same. She lives in a studio apartment in Salem, windows painted black, refuses to go outside when it rains. But every storm, her neighbors hear it, scratching at the door, soft, patient. And sometimes, late at night, her phone rings. Caller ID, payphone. She never answers, but the voicemail fills anyway, just breathing, and under it, the sound of rain on leaves, and trees whispering a name that sounds almost, but not quite, like hers. If you're listening to this during a storm, pause the video. Step outside, hold your phone up to the dark, listen past the rain. Because the forest isn't the only thing that learns your name. Sometimes it's the spaces between thunderclaps. Sometimes it's the static on a dead line. And if you hear a payphone ring in the middle of nowhere, don't pick up